What's your vagus nerve telling your brain? Welcome to the Friday Value video, and this is part 5 of a series on how to promote parasympathetic function in your body for improved healing, repairing, and digestion. Now, we had kind of talked a lot about the vagus nerve and vagal tone in the past video, so I just want to remind you of a couple of things. Poor vagal tone or functioning can have significant health implications in your body. When this vagus nerve function is disrupted, it's really not a good thing. And what can cause this? Well, excessive stress. We started off with the very first video where we showed a woman running from a bear. So excessive stress, which many of us live under day in and day out. There are some other causes, disease processes, certain medications, inflammation, infections. But when the vagal tone is disrupted, your body has a really hard time relaxing and attending to the functions that are really primary, like sleeping, breathing, digesting your food. And then, this poor vagal function can actually lead to stagnation and bacterial overgrowth in your GI tract. Low vagal tone is also associated with chronic inflammation. So it's important that we stimulate the vagus tone, or the vagus nerve, I should say, and improve vagal tone. So how do we do this? Well, we do this by breath work, which I talked about already. I mentioned when you breathe in, your muscle tone increases. When you breathe out, your muscle tone decreases. I gave you some strategies for breath work, but I wanted to remind you here that breathing in can also impact your heart rate variability, because breathing in, your heart beats faster to speed flow of oxygenated blood. When you breathe out, your heart rate slows down. Now, heart rate variability is actually regulated by the vagus nerve, and the bigger the difference in your heart rate when you're breathing in versus you're breathing out, the higher your vagal tone. So what that means is your vagus nerve is active when you breathe out, which is when the heart rate slows down. And the vagus nerve is suppressed when you breathe in, which is when your heart beats faster. Now, if your heart rate is tested when you're breathing in versus when you're breathing out, that can give you your vagal tone. What's the difference between those two things? And the higher the vagal tone, the healthier your vagus nerve function, or I should say, your body's ability to go into parasympathetic mode. All right. The parasympathetic nervous system activation, we've already talked about. That gets activated when the vagus nerve is really functioning well. And so here's some strategies to help that happen. Cold, believe it or not, if you took a strategy of ending your shower with 1 minute blast of cold water, that would improve your vagal tone. Also, taking a walk outside when it's cold can actually improve your vagal tone. Now, I'm not talking about risking hypothermia here. I'm talking about some acute cold exposure. It will actually activate the vagus nerve, and it can cause a shift toward parasympathetic nervous system activity. Tryptophan foods, believe it or not, when you consume foods that include tryptophan, it gets metabolized in your gut, and it can help the cells in your brain and your spinal cord control inflammation, which can improve communication from your gut to your brain via the vagal messenger pathway, ultimately improving vagal tone. Now, what foods include this? Well, things like spinach, seeds, nuts, bananas, and poultry. But I will state I prefer the plant-based options, especially since it's seen in the studies that reducing animal food intake decreases inflammation, which allows your vagus nerve to better regulate parasympathetic function. So you really want to choose the plant foods. And we're going to finish this video talking about singing. Yes, singing. It has a biologically soothing effect, which has everything to do with the vagus nerve. Now, if you're like me and you don't have a gift of a good voice, you can sing along to the radio when you're in the car, or Let's get a little double action here and sing when you're taking a cold shower. Now, if you do an internet search, you might see some people mentioning intermittent fasting as being seen to improve vagal tone. But I will tell you that that's based on a study that looked at female rats. And I prefer to base my strategy decisions on human studies, not rats. I'm guessing you prefer that too. So we have just 2 more things to mention in this series. So we'll finish up in the next video, but for now, I want to remind you, you can promote your healing and repair system so you can have lifelong well-being. I'll see you next week.